It'll just go away. All right, welcome back, everybody. I think it was Discord that was. All right,
we lost him.
Everybody, are you guys hearing me twice? Or that was. All right, we lost him. Everybody, are you guys hearing me twice? Or that was. All right.
It was like Groundhog Day. I can see your laugh. Okay.
I have a great idea, Greg. Turn it off.
I can see your laugh. Okay.
Just turn it off. I have a great idea, Greg. Unplug it. Just turn it off. I have a great idea, Greg. Unplug it. Just turn it off.
I don't think it's me. If I remove myself, the sound is still there. I don't think it's me.
It was me.
Okay.
I had YouTube open. What? No one.
That happens to me often enough. Yeah. So
No one told me.
I feel your pain. Welcome back, everyone, to Created Work. This is our almost weekly series where we are unpacking the ways that founders and builders and creators can leverage NFTs and Web3 ultimately, I think, to build a meaningful business for themselves and ultimately fund their efforts. Today we are going to be, I forgot to do everything today. We have such a good pre-show actually that all the work I was about to do did not get done. But we do stream 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, in case you want to tune in. I was actually just trying to find the show notes. Arnold, do you have the show notes? Ready? Hold on one sec. I'll get those for us also. But yeah, we this week we're going to be talking about actually preparing for minting of your NFT actually. So we did have some thoughts earlier. Here we go. Here's the show notes in case anyone wants to read those. And so we're going to walk through a bunch of the considerations I think that go into planning and preparing for your NFT mint itself. Jane is going to be our guide today because Jane is the only one here who's officially minted an NFT. So
I thought Francine did too.
I did.
Wait.
I did. I minted an
I take that back. That is true. Francine has created a number of NFTs on the Rally side for sure.
And I created one on Rarible.
You did? You didn't tell me this.
Which is actually a copy of the one Strawberry did for me, DeFi Friends 75. I just put it on Rarible so that I don't plan to sell it or anything.
Oh, okay.
But I minted it because
even better.
Because I wanted to see what minting was. So I minted something.
Actually, technically, I minted one like during a hackathon on OpenSea. So
Yeah,
Arnold, you're the only one who
pros
hasn't.
in here. There's pros in here.
I give it some serious thought to minting one. I really
Arnold,
thought about
right
it. So.
now, while we're here, just open up OpenSea and upload a picture, and so you can claim that you've minted one also.
Or wearable. I like
But,
wearable.
but yeah, today we're going to be talking about basically NFT revenue. So this journey has walked us from like, should we be thinking about Web3 as even a thing that could be useful, to now like where we're getting into some of the meat and potatoes of, could you do this? Now, there are other ways to generate revenue. Obviously, you could sell a token, right? Or some other things that you could possibly do. However, we're going to be looking at or exploring the NFT pathway over the next few weeks. So today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for your mint. We've identified like 3 kind of big areas that we need to discuss: the planning phase, the art phase, and then ultimately the marketing and community phase of this. So Jane, let's jump into it. Let's start talking about the planning phase.
Yeah, let's get cooking. Okay, so I love that you mentioned marketing and community last, because it actually should be first.
Okay. You're the one who, these notes.
That's what you did. You marketed to us before the show started, and you got us all excited. And
there
now,
we go.
now
I guess
we're
it kind of
real
goes into the
planning.
planning phase. There's like pre-marketing and post-marketing. So
Yes, there's pre-marketing and post. That's right.
So yesterday our conversation was around what do we start with, and it's really deciding on, sorry, that was Kiwi, deciding on what kind of community you want to build. And that will really determine what kind of NFTs you're going to be minting or generating. So there are a bunch of different options. Like you could do one of ones, which is kind of the route that I've gone, or you can generate tons, like 10 of 10s or hundreds of hundreds or whatever it might be, and you can create a giant community. There are different pros and cons for each different project. The more people that there are in the community, probably the more resources you will need to create the quality and scale that you'd like. If it's an intimate community, you can probably handle it yourself and not have to work with others. And then also considering revenue and budget was another thing, is how many resources are needed to maintain the quality of the community. And and then also deciding what platform you want to mint on. So there's a bunch of different options. You can choose something that's using Ethereum, Polygon, Solana. There's a bunch of different ones. For example, OpenSea, which runs on Ethereum, has a lot of eyes on it, but you have a lot of competition. And something like Magic Eden, for example, which is Solana, has less people on it, less competition, but less eyes on your project. So it's really, there's a ton of considerations to go into, and having a plan of where you'd like to be is a great way to start forming the beginning.
Francine's robot is talking.
My robot, Elocu, quiet for an hour. Elocu, she's asking me if I want to learn the slang.
Is it Web3 slang?
What slang?
I want to hear the Web3 slang from the robot.
It's just the slang all the kids are using. I might have to take this out of my room because I don't think it has an off button.
Does it have a plug?
Yes, that is a good plan.
I didn't even know that existed. Now I'm like, should I get it for some people?
Oh, wait, I can give you this one. I have a choice. I could give it to you or throw it across
in 100 pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can assemble it. Listen, Jane, I have participated now in a lot of NFT communities. I hate to drag us back to the subject of the show, but there, in most of the NFT communities, the planning process that you just described, which makes a lot of sense to me, was probably used by none of them. Mostly what they did, or at least apparently, mostly what they did was they decided that they wanted to do something like, let's say, I'm going to use the Rundown's Little Hippo NFT, as an example, because I've watched the Rundown planned it. Okay, he had an existing community, and he decided that he wanted to make young people in marginalized areas interested in technology and in finance. And so he was going to do classes for them, and he was going to use the sale of the NFTs to conduct these classes. Now, this guy has a very large community on Clubhouse, which he has been building for almost 2 years. So when he started his Discord, he had, I don't know, 30,000 people. But there are other communities where people have nobody when they start, and they have to build that community. What do you do if you don't have a community to start with? And that's what I think a lot of these founders do. They don't start with a community as formulated as the Rundowns, because it's, after all, a crypto community. So the people understand crypto. Suppose you want to do something for, women's issues, like we can use as an example of that, BFF. BFF didn't start with any huge group. It had to develop a community, and it did it by enlisting, celebrities, which is not open to everybody, but it is a way of developing a community. But I guess when you say planning a community, there's lots of steps to even that.
Yeah. I mean, to break it down even further, it's the thing that I say every week, which is talking to people one-on-one, having conversations, and slowly growing your network, just like you would when you just got out of college, when you're looking for a job, when you're at a networking event. It is the same exact thing. You're just getting to know people and letting people know your name, who you are, so that when you're ready to start talking about this project, people can associate like your personality with the project. People forget that it's not just about the art. I think it's half about the art and half about the person behind the art, or the people behind the art, and the mission, the values, and things like that. People are investing a lot of money into both things, and without the other one, it will probably fail. So building community in the beginning, before you're even thinking of a project, is probably the best way to go. And I see a lot of things going on where people are like talking about, oh, I'm building this NFT, like it's coming up, like I'm gonna have 1,000 NFTs dropping, and they're so busy working on their project that they're forgetting about talking to people, hosting Twitter spaces, or getting their name out there, or even before you've like conceptualized what your project is, you have to be talking to people. And I see sometimes people come up in a Twitter space to talk and say, like, what do you think of my project? And I'm like, it's great, but like, that's just a piece of it. You have to sell yourself. Like, as an entrepreneur, you need to either have the team around you do that for you if you're more introverted, or you need to do it for yourself.
I guess I have like a fundamental question here.
I have a fundamental answer.
Good. Do you need a community to do an NFT?
Not if you're not trying to sell it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, no. So I guess like the idea that marketplaces exist, right? Like Rarible and OpenSea, et cetera. Like, do they afford you the option of not like the community, right? Like, right? Because like while I think I'm on the fence about this, I guess, right? I guess like it's totally possible in my book to create something that you could sell, right? Like without any sort of everlasting or ongoing sort of effort around it. And that seems like a reasonable offering potentially, right? Like, especially if you're just trying to fundraise some dollars, can I create art and sell it potentially without having to do any work? Or now,
It's like Stumble Upon, Greg. Remember years ago, there was a site that introduced people to new sites on the internet, and it was called Stumble Upon. If you don't have a community and you want to sell on OpenSea, you can put it up there and hope somebody will stumble upon it. But that's really, with the size of OpenSea now, hard. And I was thinking, and I'd like you all to weigh in on this for me.
Hold on one sec. We're getting I'm getting like weird robot sounds. Anybody else?
My robot is silent. Don't blame my robot.
Let me just try. Everyone say something real quick.
Say something.
All right. So it's not Francine. I think, is it Jane? Say something.
It's you. No, it's all of us.
Yeah, I think it's you.
It was you, Greg. Get off.
It was you.
Get off the stage, man. Get off the stage.
Where are the tomatoes?
Get the hook.
You guys have the sound when I muted those, so it can't be me.
No, when you reconnected, it went back. It came back.
Everyone who's watching, half the time of this is like figuring out how to fix tech live. So,
and here's that's a really good point, Jane, because when you are working in a space where everything is new, and we're trying all kinds of things for the first time, you're going to have all this stuff happen. Oh, that's a dog. When the robot doesn't come in, the dog does.
I thought it was a hairy little man.
That's a hairy big girl. That's Trina. Okay, so you can hope that someone is going to stumble upon your NFT. But if you don't have, this is what I've been thinking about. Do you know the site Looks Rare? Looks Rare gives you Looks coins if you trade on its platform. It's right now smaller than OpenSea, because it's newer. And so I was thinking that if I didn't have such a kick butt community, maybe I would like to buy and sell not on OpenSea, but on Looks Rare, where if there was a transaction, I would not only get whatever the transaction yielded in wet wheat or whatever that's called, and then I get Looks coins. So here's the problem, you out there in audience land. There are so many new tools that from week to week, it's going to be hard to keep track of all of them because they're just coming at such a rapid pace right now. So for this week, I would gamble on Looks Rare.
Yeah, something people are trying is just putting a couple pieces here, a couple pieces here, and seeing what works, and just giving people options of different platforms in case the buyer is on a different platform that they haven't posted their work on. So I think diversifying where you're putting it is a good idea. I personally have been nervous to post anywhere but OpenSea, but I just got my foundation invite, thanks to the community, by the way. And just
explain foundation, because I don't know what it is.
Yeah, foundation is another platform. It's how I've been explained, or what someone explained to me about it's more for established artwork, and maybe not when you're starting off in the beginning. You also have to be invited by someone in the community. And before, it was actually kind of hard to get an invite, and I think last week or something, they gave every user 10 invites. So there's going to be a lot more people on foundation, but I'm going to start putting my artwork there and just trying that out. But like slowly, I started with OpenSea because I was more known and did 5 pieces there. Probably start with this and then start moving into other ones and just testing it out. The struggle for my work, particularly, I only do one of ones. So if I do it on one platform, I either have to delete it, and if I paid gas fees to upload it, I would lose that money, or like I'm basically like committing to that platform for that piece, which is like a gamble. But if you're doing like 10 of 10s and things like that, I think you have more options.
Can you guys hear me? It's okay now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like for the entrepreneurial part of our brains here, it seems like these are channels, right? Like for sales, and community is a channel for other things than just sales, but it is a sales channel as well. And so I guess I would still say, like, generally speaking, I think you should build a community, right?
Of course.
However, I don't think it's a requirement, relatively speaking, to like the NFT process. I think it's extremely common, right? But like, if you just wanted to like sell 100 things, you obviously need a customer base, but a customer base and community are not like it's important not to collude those two things, right? Like, because the customer base is like a transactional thing and the community is like a relational thing, right? And you hope you elevate your customers into like a relationship, but like it's not always like by default, right? Like,
I don't know if I totally agree with that, because
please.
Like community can mean different things. Community can mean your 5 people around you. It doesn't have to mean 100 to 1,000 people. It means the relationships around you, and the people that have those relationships are probably the ones that will invest in the art.
Sure, but I agree, but yeah. That's my point, is you don't need a relationship per se to sell something.
No, you can be Pepsi.
Yeah.
Pepsi dropped an NFT. It has customers. I wouldn't call those customers a community. Now, maybe they are hoping to create a community around the NFT, but they're a brand. And,
regardless of size, I think it's a fair point, Jane. Like I'm actually not judging it on size. I'm actually judging on what you actually just described. Like, it's a lot of work to build a relationship with 5, 10, 100 people, like, that's meaningful. If the goal is to sell a thing for $1 versus $1,000, like, you invest more in the BD part or the prospecting part, but these actually have normal overlays in the business world that aren't perfect to the community world. I guess I'm just trying to make the distinction, not because I think like there's a right or wrong answer per se, just to point out for folks who are thinking about this, that a community may be part of planning your NFT, but not necessarily part of planning it.
Maybe the way to qualify it is like, this path is the most likely where you'll be successful if you're not a brand like Pepsi, or you don't have clout already with you in the project. If you're
it's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to support yourself? Are you trying to educate minority children in financial literacy? Are you trying to raise the image of women? Are you trying to just stick it to men? In which case that's Dick True.
No, I completely agree with that. I think that it really comes down to what your goals are, right? And like what value people are getting from those NFTs that you're trying to sell them. Because a lot of times the NFT is really more about you, the creator, than it is about, like, you brought this point up earlier, Jane, than about the actual artwork itself. I want to support you. I want to support this idea that you're building. And so I want to buy into that NFT, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it really comes down to more about community, because I'm in that community, I'm growing, and I'm feeling that energy, so I want to participate in it, versus, like, again, Greg, I think when you kind of talk about more just a traditional, like, sort of transactional approach of it, I think that's maybe where, I struggle to think of an example, but some NFT that just has more of a utility use case, right? Where I'm going to get something very specific for that NFT, and not necessarily anything tied to the creator, but like, I think maybe one example could be, and this may be a terrible example, but the announcement from, I think it was Coachella, where you buy the NFT and you get like lifetime access or something, right? That's, in my opinion, far more transactional. And so, is there really a large?
Radio NFT.
The reason I'm bringing it up, though, is that I think NFTs are not a I think I sent you this list, Arnold, like this huge taxonomy of like all the ways that I'll paste it in the chat for everyone, that NFTs can be thought of. And I think like it's important to remember they're not actually just art, right? And so like while there are a lot of artists that are doing things, I believe those artists, one, are actually like trying to create sustainability for themselves. And that part requires thinking like a business person. There's also a bunch of entrepreneurs and brands thinking about this space right now, and they suck at community, right? And I don't want them to be turned off from the potential of NFTs.
Well, and if you're the Seahawks, you know, and you're maybe thinking of minting NFTs and using them as game tickets, you know, you kind of have a community, but it's not a community in the sense that an artist would think of you know, like Jane thinks of a community as being different than, you know, whoever owns the Seahawks. You know, that person wants, and we need to make some definitions here, because there are utility NFTs that, you know, that are like conference passes or tickets, or, you know.
Yeah, even Coachella said that they're going to start minting their tickets as NFTs. So I guess in this realm, I was thinking we were talking about arts, maybe, and more.
No, it's okay to think about art. I guess like our notion, like when Abhinav and Arnold and I started, though, was actually like as startup founders, is there leverage for us as well? And I think it's a much more straddled, like I think as an artist, you should definitely create a community. I think as a startup, you should consider a community, right? And if you're like, you know, just a at scale business, you may just think about it purely as utility. Like, so I'm only framing it, not because I think there's a right or wrong answer. And I actually love that we have an artist in here, because like it importantly diversifies the conversation around like these parts, right? But yeah, I just wanted to point out, like, relative to everyone listening, you don't have to have a community, right?
I feel like as a startup, though, wouldn't it be most important to have a community? Because like
we're definitely not arguing about that. I'm just giving the caution.
Yes, Jane.
We're all building community tools, so we all agree. Like,
yes, we are all trying to have a community, but we're also saying that not every NFT is for a community of collectors. Yeah. Some are pretty transactional. You know, they either let you into something or they keep you out of something. Or, you know, there's some people who have NFTs that let you into some of their private Discord channels. So it's a way of token gating. And I'm sure there are going to be more uses for NFTs in the future. I'm experimenting now with doing my writing as NFTs. I will say that at this point I'm failing miserably, because the only people who buy my writing NFTs are my good friends who, if I were selling them rotten bananas, would buy those too. You know what I mean? Those are your hardcore fans. But I'm trying to see whether the written word can be used in NFTs. Other people are experimenting with music NFTs. And this morning I heard somebody talking on Clubhouse about real estate NFTs, not with respect toward land in the metaverse, although that too, but with respect to, I want to invest in this house. I know it's going to go up in value. I don't own it now, and I probably can't afford it now, but what if I bought the NFT and the NFT went up in value along with the house? You know, I don't know if that's going to work. Nobody knows what of this is going to work in the long haul.
By the way, the one thing I will add, actually, Jane, as well, I think for the artists even, is, for example, you do one-of-one art. You don't want to become a factory to make one-of-ones either, right? So I believe like some of these other use cases actually are available to artists as well to utilize and leverage. Like you may have 1,000 people in your community, but only 5 pieces of art that they could have bought, right? But those other people, like how can you create more utility or interaction or strengthen relationships? And it feels like there could be lighter weight things that are not art per se, popes or, membership tickets or events that you host, or, maybe you decide to curate, other stuff, right? So I do think actually we all have the spectrum available to us. And I wanted to just sort of lay that out there a little bit for folks. But let's move forward in the convo, because the first part was obviously like the plan. And I think the plan is very convoluted, right? Like Jane mentioned a lot of great points, like where are you going to mint it? Where are you going to sell it? What is the financial motivation, incentives, or use of funds that sort of goes with it? Yeah, right. And then of course, like, are you going to have a community, which is ultimately the first point we put on our list, right? Like, and it's important, I think, to just make that distinction, right? Like, because if it's not a community, then you don't set up the expectation if there's something beyond the arm's length relationship of this ownership. And as Francine said, I will unlock utility. You will find out about when new utility is available, but like, we're not here to kumbaya in any other way, right? Like, or do anything else. I'm not interested in you talking to each other or any of those other pieces that may come with it, right? The second part then, I guess, is the deliverable, right? Like we'd sort of in the notes sort of called this the art, right? But the reality is that there is something you give people as part of the NFT. And it may be art, right? But we know for a fact, regardless of how pretty or not pretty or how creative or not creative the art is itself, there's always sort of like the way it gets represented as an NFT. And by the way, you don't even technically need to, but if you're going to put something on OpenSea, you've got to provide an image, and I think you have the option of providing a video, right? Right. You have to figure out where you're going to store that thing, right? Like, is it going to be centralized like on AWS, or is it going to be decentralized on something like IPFS, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the metadata that goes with that thing, which is a very interesting place, because the metadata could be where you put the thing out, but all the value lives in the metadata. Like the image may be like a black square for all you care, right? But it's literally the metadata attributes that actually provides the actual points of value, right? Like,
such as?
So for example, traditional generative art-based NFTs, right? They use metadata to represent rarity, right? Like, so they come up with N number of traits, right? And then they apply those traits to that thing. In a one-of-one, Jane, for example, may have like a series she's planning to do. It's going to be 5 unique pieces of work, but they go together in a collection. One of the properties in the metadata may be the collection name, right? But if you were a utility-based thing, it might be like the ticket number and the event date and valid until, or who knows, right? Like, you can use the metadata to store all kinds of stuff, right? And so that black square, which has no artistic or visual value per se, may belie like actual metadata value that you aren't showing, right? So curious thoughts on sort of like the execution part of the.
I just thought of this, is like, we just went over the why and the what. And if you're using like the 5 principles of why, what, where, when, how, it's why and what. Right now we're in the where and the how. And then the last thing we decide is the when. So we just talked about kind of how, or we're talking about how, like the metadata and properties and stuff like that. I agree. Like everything you said is like stuff that you want to consider, especially larger projects. You want to like give that rarity. So it seems like it's kind of like a collectible trading card. Like, what is the value of this piece? And what will the value be to others? The more rare, obviously, the more value it will bring when you resell it, if you decide to.
Well, and that's the issue with like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The Bored Ape Yacht Club originally was Bored Apes, and they were judged on their metadata or their rarities, and that's how their price was determined. But now they've gone way past that, and they've become a community, and they've even gone past that because they've become a brand. So what again, I'm always the one trying to say this is only the beginning, and we are stepping through a lot of uncharted territory, because we don't know whether the Bored Apes are going to be a successful brand forever or for how long. But that's all, that's all that we have right now. Is we have all these experiments going on that we can look at and try.
I guess to those points, though, I guess one thing I'm left curious about is around the pricing model, right? For a new piece that you decide to mint. So taking into account all of the back end peak components you have to pull together, different gas fees and things like that. And Jane, I don't know if you have any insight into this, but like what the sort of, I guess, thought process of how much a piece, you might want to list it at, right? To put out there.
Oh man, this was the struggle for both my projects. I can only speak from my experience, and I don't know the tokenomics or the price like strategy around stuff. But for crypto scuds, we thought about what would like bring value to us and make a profit, and how many hours did we spend on each work. And so because they are all audio from scratch, that takes a long time to produce, and then the visuals to match that audio take a long time to produce. We came up with just a number that just sounded good to us, which was 0.25 ETH. And we also decided we'd only do 10 one-of-ones, and we would only create new ones once those were sold. So if all those were sold, then maybe we'd up the price. We'd see like how fast they were sold and kind of play by ear. My personal project, I started off also at 0.25. Sold my first piece very quickly. The next one, I priced it much higher. It did not sell. I got nervous, so I brought it down. And then I brought it way down to 0.2. Then it eventually sold. And then my newest pieces I'm doing at 0.4 because I spent a ton of time on them, and I'm less concerned with just selling for the sake of making money, but I want to sell for someone who really likes the art and like believes in me and wants to hang it in their house or like really display it. Like someone who appreciates art on that level rather than just wanting an NFT. And I guess for me, I just go based on what I'm feeling, which is probably not the best like business tactic, but I just started out in this space, so I'm not sure.
Art is subjective. There's no this is the thing I feel like so weird when people are like, why is that worth anything? I was like, why is anything worth anything? Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It's in the eye of the beholder.
But it's even harder with NFTs because you're not only dealing with the intrinsic value of the art, but you're also dealing with the wavering value of ETH. Is
separate.
The uptime of the year for ETH? Is it the downtime of the year for ETH? And then you're dealing with a third factor, which is the traffic on the network, or the gas fees. So like in my own case, whether I am going to buy an NFT is a combination of all of those usually. If the gas fee is $250 and the thing is minting for, 115 or something like that, I'll be like, no way, I don't buy, I'm not going to bother with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Francine's really, I think it's a really smart point to point out here, though, because, and this goes back to the plan, right? Like, if, for example, if Jane says, like, the reason I'm doing this collection is I want to be able to do art full time, right?
Don't tell Clark.
I won't. He's not listening. Don't worry. But you know what I mean? Like, and she's like, great. So my cost of living for me to be able to get to the lifestyle, like to maintain like my fixed cost, the ability to do my work, right? I've got to make, $85,000 a year, let's say, right? Like that would be the lowest I could go. I just can't do it for less, right? So she's got to back out from like, great, like, so the market right now for 3D art, and there's comparables, just like if you sell a house or a piece of art or whatever it may be, right? There's going to be comparables of like what there is out there. We were chatting before, like I want to buy one of Jane's art. It's actually just it's higher than my normal range that I usually like buy art at, right? Like, not because it's a bad piece of art, right? Like, so, like I usually buy like where I can mint, and it's like a much lower entry point. And by the way, I don't even sell my pieces. Like I've sold one, and then I instantly bought the same collection back. Like, right? Like, so these are some considerations about how the market works around NFTs to some degree, right? Like, I think it's different in the utility side, right? Like, Arnold, to your question, right? Like, if I'm going to offer you lifetime hosting, well, I got to figure out like what I think lifetime hosting looks like, right? I got to like downgrade and sort of like, amortize over like cost reductions, all the other things I think are going to happen, right? And basically come away with like, I'm going to make money no matter what if I charge you this amount, or I'm going to take a loss leader regardless of the fact I'm not going to make money on this thing, but I'll take the marketing value and sort of the hype that may come with it, right? Like from being able to sell it this way, or I'll take the learnings of understanding how to do something, right? Like, so I think those are the top level factors. Francine pointed out the really important parts though, is that, and I struggle with this all the time, right? You either think in crypto or you think in dollars, right? Like, but the second you straddle, you're going to give yourself a headache, right? Like,
exactly.
Are you selling it for 0.1 ETH because that's normative, like in the type of work you sell, or are you selling it for $1,500, right? Like, and you just got to decide like which realm you're going to play in, because when you think in crypto, then you don't talk about the dollar value ever, right? You talk about it in ETH or whatever relative to the market. If you talk in the translated value, then that means you're likely willing to adjust your ETH price your crypto price to match the market rate, right? Which is a very different sort of proposition, I think, right? Like if you want to sell to corporates or whatever it is, you're probably easier off saying it's $2,500 and we'll translate that to whatever the crypto equivalent is to sort of get you there.
Well,
go ahead, Francine. Go ahead.
No, I've been talking all morning.
No. So I just based on that, Greg, this kind of takes me back to a conversation I think we had a couple of weeks ago around the excitement around NFTs, and to some degree because you're not thinking about it in terms of dollars, you're thinking about it in terms of crypto, which I guess puts a different spin. I'm not spending $1,500. I'm spending just like 1.5 ETH or whatever. I guess I'm curious. I wonder if that's what's driving a lot of the transactions, even the fact that people aren't thinking about the fact that I just spent, $2,500 or 10 grand. I actually just spent just a couple ETH.
$250,000 for an ETH.
I never think about the dollar amount. Well, when I first started, right, I like always was doing the translation, right? Like now when the thing comes up and it shows me a dollar, I don't even see the dollar amount anymore. It's like invisible to me, right?
Well, before NFTs, I invested in crypto. I had a pot of money that was basically the house's money that I had made over the years of investing in Bitcoin and ETH. And so what I did when NFTs came out was that's my pot of money. That's the money that I think in crypto with. Yeah. But I never commingle my funds. So I never think in dollars and say, oh, I want that NFT. I want to go to my dollar checking account, and get more money. It's like, no, when I'm out, I'm out. And it's a separate little economy. And what I do if I want to buy an NFT and I'm out of ETH, I have to sell something and get more ETH because what we're doing now is learning. And as the Atlantic, which seems to be crypto hating, says, gambling. And so to the extent that we are gambling, you have to, or even let's put it in better terms, investing. It's really best to figure out what you want to spend to get into this market.
Jane, did you have something? Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I agree with that. I do. And by the way, the Atlantic article doesn't bother me. Like, I think I think all the points are fair, right? Like there are lots of times where I'm like minting something and literally you have like the gambler's shake, right? Of like, what am I going to get? You know, like you're hoping for something good, right? Like,
especially Vivi, buy in a blind box.
Yeah, right. Exactly, right? Like if I buy a piece of Jane's artwork though, I'm not gambling at all. Like I'm investing in the artist, right? Like because I know I'm buying it for the sake of like supporting this artist. I'm buying it maybe for some NFTs. I don't care what it's going to turn into because I support the project, which is how I bought most of my NFTs. I don't give a crap about the art. Actually, I like not because the art's bad. I actually want to support the underlying cause, and so I'm happy that my money's going to that cause. Period. Right? Like if I happen to have a really nice piece of art, awesome. If I have a really valuable piece of art, even more awesome. Right? Like, but that's not like the factor at all for me. Right? Like that's why I haven't sold any of them. Right? Like is that I'm supporting the projects, and I don't really care about the upside per se. Right? But this is an interesting point that you raised, Arnold. Right? Like. And I do think as we start to explore more utility use cases, which I believe the trend line is where we're going towards, artists, startups, everyone's going to have utility use cases as well that go with their art, right? With their projects, whatever it may be, right?
What is Jane's utility use case? Jane is an artist. What is Jane's utility use case? You just said that. What?
Yeah, for my personal project, it's a intimate community of whoever is the holder. So we have a group chat going on with the holders. It's direct access to me. It's coffee chats. It's networking. It's just having that quality that you might miss in a larger community. And with Crypto Skugs, it was getting a community around Gloria's music. So if Gloria becomes a famous artist, you get more access to her, to that. That also includes like Zoom chats or extra, concert tickets and things like that as it comes up. You're also joining a music NFT community. You also get a poster with the wave file like printed on a visual with the Crypto Skug. So there's a little more of that, but we never wanted to like overpromise like we're doing this and this and this, like 50% goes to this, because like whatever we want to do,
don't need to.
The two of us, because it's just me. Like I really want to maintain that quality, and what I could promise is my time.
So I think an amazing use case, for example, for Jane would be like I think Bored Ape, one of the big projects does this, but like if Jane were to sell prints, for example, of the pieces, but rev shared back to the actual owner of the NFT. Right. So like I would definitely buy a print right away of like that purple head, that one. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would want that print. Now I'd actually love to own that one, like personally. Right. Like, but I also love the idea of more people having it. Like, and we're going to see merch and like on demand stuff like we've been talking about coming up, but why not have a revenue stream come off the print process straight back to the owner of the NFT at that time, right? Like provide them an opportunity to actually recuperate their investment while even Jane also recuperates or continues to profit and like gets the opportunity to create more work, right? Like I've got like a bunch of artists, you can't see it here, that I like this guy, like I find them at all kinds of random places, and I don't have any other way to stay engaged or participate in them or invest in them, honestly, in other ways, right? Which I would love to actually, because I think that would be super interesting, right? So like, I have like other art here, like all this stuff here is like from other artists that I've found that I like, and I like having their art, but they sell them as prints also. I don't get to participate in that process, but it'd be pretty cool, right? Like, like to be like, no, I'm a true fan. Like I want to like support this piece. And then by the way, yeah, can we make t-shirts? Can we do all the stuff that's going to end up in the museum? Like, and can I somehow participate in that? Right. Pretty cool. As an investor, curator, like whatever I am, in this ecosystem as well.
Yeah. You see this artist, I bought this artist's art maybe, 35 years ago. I have no idea what happened to him.
Yeah.
And, it's called Manhattan Cowboy. And it's like all the art that I bought, it's like my favorite thing because it's me. You know, I
Yeah.
came from Manhattan and I now am in Phoenix.
But this is the community part. These are the threads, right? That actually could exist that don't exist anymore, right? Like because they're beyond the transaction. We all right now have
my
art.
John Dawson community. Right.
We all have art right now that we don't know anything about the artist anymore.
Right.
But not because we don't care, right? Like because there wasn't a mechanism or a way to understand it, right? Or to be connected better. And that's what we should be double clicking into.
I actually every once in a while look up artists whose work I've collected on Facebook and see if I can find them there. But you know, that's like that's like a different.
Yeah, I do this all the time. Like there's a YouTuber, 1000, right? Like he did a deck of cards, right? Like, and I bought like the wall print of one of the cards. There's no NFT stuff going on here, right? Like, but it would be awesome if there was, right? Like, and I bought like extra, I bought the decks of cards and I bought one set that me and my son can play with, but I also have one that I'll never open, right? Like I collect stuff, like that's how I am, right? Like, I want to be part of more of those communities, right? Like I bought his art because I love the content he makes and he's showing people how to do art on YouTube. And I follow him because of it. And when there was a chance to support him, I took it, right? Like it was a Kickstarter and I'm waiting months to get it, right? But imagine if he thought about that as an NFT project as well, right? Like every card's going to have an owner, right? Like, and I'm going to split the revenue. Like every deck, you get 1/52 of like what comes out of it, right? Because that's how it's going to be, right? Like, you own 1/52 of the deck, right? Like these are the ways that I think artists as well should be rethinking how to like turn their art into more things. Like one of ones are awesome, but every one of one has prints, like in the traditional model, right? And it doesn't have to be right click and save. It could be like, that you could participate in ownership as well, like in other models downstream from it. As long as I think in fairness to the person who bought it, you offer them the option to opt into it.
And it's like Vivi. Vivi is all the Disney intellectual property and the Marvel intellectual property. Right. And, and for people who are collectors of those, I mean, it's unbelievable to me how many people there are who are collectors of those things. Because when I first got on Vivi at the beginning, I could always get a mint of any of these things that dropped. And now it's hopeless. I mean, you
forget it. It's all bots and shit now. Like,
yeah, right. I mean, you need fast fingers, or you need, you need to have 18 family members working with you. It's all bots, right? But it is amazing how fast that took off, and the volume of it is greater than OpenSea, and all it is collectible NFTs. It's like baseball cards on a huge grand scale. Mm-hmm. It's like owning a Mickey Mouse baseball card.
Yeah. Well, so these
things. I'm just like thinking like the resources it'll take to, let's say I do that, post the work up, manage the Shopify. Let's say I do Shopify and then have it fulfilled by someone, like all the logistics that I'm thinking to make sure that at each touch point, the quality.
I have a cool idea. Let's just do it on this show. Right? And like, this seems like a fun idea to me. Like, why can't we have prints where the NFT owner participates? Like, let's work through the process.
I'll make the art if you want to handle the
we were talking about this. Let's do this thing for real.
Let's do it. Let's all do it.
Yeah. Like, let's try this model. Like, where the prints can be sold. They're not actual editions of the NFT. They're actually prints. We'll mail them. We'll drop ship them or whatever it takes, right? We could set up some kind of like smart contract to do the revenue share. And we'll sell one of Jane's arts.
Well, we could sell them on Shopify or Amazon.
Yeah, Shopify's got an NFT thing coming up also. So we could sell the prints on Shopify, or we could sell NFTs on Shopify, right? But like these could be special NFTs where all the prints will actually go, like back to the, I don't know, it seems cool.
Okay,
Yeah,
Jane. We
well,
are
no, it's pretty cool too because it comes to the theme of the show as well, which is like merging Web 2 and Web 3 worlds together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We
okay.
can do
So
this.
Jane, you're in this role play that this LARP that we're about to engage in. You play the role of the artist. So you figure out what you want. We play the role of the customers and the marketers. And
Great. That leaves the fun part to me, the creative.
Yeah.
Well, Arnold and I can be the developers, right?
Yeah,
like,
we can be,
build something.
that's right. I'll be the shield.
Actually, you know what, Arnold? East Denver has a hackathon starting this weekend. I was going to code something up just for fun, so maybe I'll try to see if I can find some folks to join and to build something like this.
We should have a group. What should we be
Yeah,
called?
we will set it up. If you're interested and you're watching this video, hit us up, DM us. Sorry, we missed this comment before, but he said, the community could donate the art even back to the artist, like, or they could donate some percentage of the royalties back. Like it's kind of like Gumroad where it's like, how much do you want to pay for this thing? Like, and there could be a floor, but you could go above it potentially. And then like, we could come back, and
how
then
many
just
people are watching this. Does it say?
Well, it's always weird. So the live count here doesn't show like all of the audiences that are watching, but also most of the consumptions actually post.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and I have no indicators.
You're trying to figure out how many you have to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say hi.
Well, but more importantly, when we add our audiences together, it becomes, by the way, if we get this to work, Francine's got a great community in the Karma community. We could.
I have the Karma Club community. Yep. I have 11,000 Twitter followers. I have 26,000 Clubhouse followers.
Yeah, this would be a really cool proof of concept for like building in public. Like if we could show people how.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't need it. I'm just kidding. If we could show how people can come together like this, and do something, that would be so cool.
And then
the goal of the show was to unpack this, right, so that people see it up close. And
so we're gonna put the dirty laundry right out on the bed.
We are
unpacking it right in front of you and putting the dirty laundry. Right
good thing Abhinav wasn't here to object. All right, we are at time, everyone, but this sounds great. I'll send some notes out. We'll start talking about this. We can actually use our meeting tool to record our planning sessions, and we could just share those out as well. I'm super psyched. Like, I love these kinds of things, and I love figuring out ways to do this.
I am too, and I want to support Jane.
Me too.
My real problem is I am never transactional. I grew up in a relational world, so where you knew your butcher and your baker and all that kind of stuff. So of course now, I'm going to be in a relationship with Jane, and we're going to do this. I'm loving it.
Yeah, we're going to do this for sure. I love it too. And I love doing all these things in public because I feel like I want people to see how imperfect the process is.
And also that like people are just figuring it out as they go.
Totally.
Like, the intimidation that's out there, it's like nobody knows what they're doing. Everyone's just like,
who's this person? America's Best Farm. Who's been conversing with us during the show.
Yeah, I think he's watching on the YouTube, or they are watching on the YouTube.
Yes, who's been.
Yeah, sorry we missed your comment. I don't actually know what Harvest Finance Farm Token is. We did mention though that coins is another pathway to monetization. We're just looking at the NFT side for now. But yeah, all right, gang, this has been awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to next week then. Next week is, we still have our series pre-planned out, so we got some content to execute, but we'll start to weave it in or start splitting the time and doing some updates and covering what we're doing with this as well. So thanks everybody.
You can't pivot?
We can. I have one scheduled guest that I need to just make sure we still provide like the stage to.
I'm just kidding.
But maybe we'll be able to bring him into, I think Julian is next week. I'll see. But we'll have an update on it soon. All right, everyone. Looking forward to it. It's going to be super fun. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
See you guys.
Hi, everybody. Stop saying having us. This is our show.